Thank you very much. Well then, now it all starts to get a little more serious here as the aimshot.com Formula Ford Festival ramps up a gear into the first of two semi-finals. The next two races of the day will be the semi-finals for the Formula Ford Festival, and the front row of this grid is made up with the two of our three heat winners. Jonathan Brown, who won a very wet second heat of the day, Matt Cowley, who won the first, and they'll both be on the front row together for our first semi-final then of two. The way it works for these semi-finals, the top 12 finishers automatically progress through to the final. The positions 13 to 27 will then be entered into the last chance race. Now there are 30 starters in each of our semi-finals. So that means there will be three drivers, the last three drivers classified, who will not get through. This will be the last race that they compete in, so we'll try and keep an eye on that. But of course, the winner of these semi-finals is of some significance, because that determines your finishing position from this race, determines your grid position for the final. So here is the grid for semi-final one then, sponsored by Avon Tyres. Jonathan Brown, the Heat 2 winner, is on pole position, with Matt Cowley, the Heat 1 winner, alongside. Ollie White and Michael Eastwell share row number 2, with Joey Foster, double festival champion, sharing row 3 with Jordan Dempsey. Ross Martin, the 2019 national champions, on row 4 with Callum Crawley, ahead of Morgan Quinn, and Alan Davidson, runner-up in the Irish Championship this year, 10th on the grid. Row number 6 is shared by Michael McPherson and Tom MacArthur. Ivan McCulloch and Max Marzarati are on row 7. Max one to watch for here. He started on the front row for his heat, but faded after an off-track excursion. Ryan Campbell and Kenneth Cowie are next, then Peter Daly and Colin Blackburn. Bryce Aaron, the youngest driver competing in the festival, just 16 years of age, is 19th on the grid, ahead of Kevin McClurg, rounding out the top 20. As I said, it's a 30-car grid though, so there is another 5 rows behind that, headed by Simon and James Hadfield, then Logan Hanna and Dan Rene Larson, Andrew Blair and Stephen McWhinney. We're now getting into the drivers that got through in the last chance race. Remember, Andrew Blair was the winner of that race, McWhinney was on the podium. Jonathan Woolridge, the Canadian driver, definitely one to watch. He scraped through in the last chance race, but he's got top 10 potential, no doubt. He has got Stuart Kestenbaum alongside, then Henry Campbell and Andrew Pryke. To round out the field, it will be a race over 15 laps. The top 12 finishers advance, and it's the Cliff Dempsey racing car of Jonathan Brown, 5th place in the National Championship this year, that lines up on pole position with Matt Cowley, double US Formula 1600 champion, alongside him, also a former Northern Formula Ford 1600 champion over here in the UK as well, with Ollie White and Michael Eastwell on row number 2. Michael Eastwell trying to bounce back from that heartbreaking mechanical issue that took him out of contention in the festival 12 months ago. Joey Foster, one to watch for. He was a slightly disappointing 3rd place in his heat yesterday. He'll be looking to make some progress there from the 3rd row, but in the dry conditions today, overtaking, so I'm told, may be a little harder. We're going to see a few fisticuffs, I think, in this race, as drivers that have to make progress try to do so. Let's go racing then. Semi-final number 1 of the aimshot.com Formula Ford Festival gets underway with a good start made from pole position by Jonathan Brown. Away to well 2 is Ollie White, who's 3rd on the grid, but I think they will be in grid order more or less as they head towards the first corner. Yes, they are, at least in the top 3 or 4, side by side for 5th position there. Is around the outside, I think, then Jordan Dempsey to try and get past. Oh, and sideways off into the gravel trap already has gotten the number 72 car, and that is Jordan Dempsey. Unfortunately, the young Irish driver is out of the race and will not progress to the final, at least. Well, no, he won't even be in the last chance race, will he? Because he's a non-finisher by the looks of it. That car well and truly buried, and that is drama already for the man that lined up 6th on the grid. He was 5th into the first corner, but carried too much speed and ends up in the gravel trap. So Jordan Dempsey out of the race, already one of our big name drivers in trouble, and immediately the safety car is scrambled, as that car clearly needs to be recovered from the dangerous position from which it's found itself in. And we can take a deep breath, because as suspected, it all kicked off right from the word go there, but Jonathan Brown did everything he needed to do. He won the heat. That was crucial, because that now puts him at the front of the grid for the semi-final. It's going to be harder for people to overtake him in theory in these drier conditions, because there are less options now as far as which line you can use to try and make way past people, and so all he has to do now, he says, making it sound a lot easier than it is defend from the front of the grid. Oh, that's drama as well, because, oh, that's Bryce Aaron, is it not, that's stopped in the Oldfield car. Oh, that's a real shame. So Bryce Aaron, as I said, the youngest driver competing here, another driver that, well, he was 19th, he had some work to do to get into an automatic promotion spot, but Bryce Aaron, unfortunately, is in big trouble already. What of those that I mentioned should be making progress from the back? Well, Jonathan Woolridge started 27th, the Canadian scholarship driver, car number 23. He only gained 3 spots on the opening lap into 24th place, so he needs to get another 12 if he's to put himself into a guaranteed final position. However, he has got himself into the last chance race qualifying position, so as a bare minimum, the Canadian youngster is doing all he needs to at least give himself one last shot at getting through, but that last chance final race will be only a 5-lap race, and you must be in the top 6 in that race in order to qualify for the final, and even then you'll be right at the back. So Jonathan Woolridge would have liked to have a completely safety car free race, because these safety car laps now are being taken out of the total race distance, and therefore giving him and some other quick drivers from towards the back of the grid less of an opportunity to overtake and get themselves into a qualifying position. So Brown leads the way, Cowley is second, Ollie White third, Michael Eastwell fourth, and Joey Foster fifth. Ross Martin is sixth, 7th Alan Davidson, 8th Morgan Quinn, 9th Callum Crawley, 10th is Michael McPherson, 11th for Tom MacArthur, and 12th Ian McCulloch. They would be, as it stands, the 12 drivers that automatically get promoted to the final. Max Maserati is the man on the outside looking in 13th position, and he's got Ryan Campbell right behind him. So that could be, as long as the leaders don't get themselves too involved with each other, that could be where most of the action now is in this race, as they desperately try to get themselves into a top 12 finishing position. And Max Maserati in particular will be kicking himself, because he, as I said, qualified second for his heat. It was the first heat of the day, and unfortunately ran wide in the early stages, had a bit of contact, I believe, with a couple of other drivers, and he unfortunately was not able to finish as high up the order as he'd have liked. Now the lights are out on the safety car, even though this recovery process hasn't quite been completed, but it's more or less been done, and the number 72 car of Jordan Dempsey out of the festival then, unfortunately, but Peter Dempsey is still yet to race in the second semi-final later on. This semi-final, though sponsored by Avon Tyres, is about to get back underway once again, with Jonathan Brown and Matt Cowley, your top 2 drivers, about to see the green flags. No overtaking, remember, before they cross the start-finish line, but once they get there, all bets are off. Keep an eye to that 12th place battle as well, to see whether Max Maserati or anybody else can get themselves into a transfer spot. Green flags fly again then, away we go, and Michael Eastwell immediately on his toes to try and have a go at Ollie White into Paddock Hill Bend. He's going to be able to challenge for 3rd position, I wonder, and move himself an extra row up the grid for the final. Each position you gain within this top 12 puts you 1 row further up for that final race, the big one at the end of the weekend. So right now, Michael Eastwell will start on the 4th row of the grid. If he gets past Ollie White, he'd be on the 3rd row, and that could make all the difference as to whether you're going to have any chance of winning the Brands Hatch Formula Festival this year. Clean restart then, no change of the order as far as I can see inside the top 10. The battle for 12th, though, is really raging. I can see that out of my window. David McCulloch is under quite a lot of pressure from Max Maserati, and that is a really, really significant battle. It's close at the front, I realise, but the race leader is getting away here, Jonathan Brown, with Cowley second, White third, Eastwell fourth. The battle on for 5th here. Joey Foster under pressure from Ross Martin. The Scottish driver looks up the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. He's late on the brakes, but can't quite commit to it, and so Joey Foster maintains 5th position as they turn through the daunting right-hander for the 5th time, and hangs on then to the spot. We have not yet had any changes within the top 12. I'm keeping an eye to the timing screen, an eye to the pictures as well in front of me, because there is bound to be lots of shuffling that goes on in that midfield, and it could be really very significant. Essentially, the top 13 cars have all broken away from the next group of cars, and I can see out of the window we're going to have a change for 12th position, and I think that's going to knock Ivan McCulloch out of a transfer spot. It's happening behind these drivers that are going up towards Surtees and Clearways. All out wide there goes Ollie White. That's Michael Eastwell through into 3rd position then, so Eastwell has now found a way through. He's ahead of Ollie White. That could allow Joey Foster to challenge as well, and Foster pulls to the outside line into Paddock Hill Bend. Will he sell the dummy here maybe and go back to the inside? He can't do that, so he goes right around the outside. This is doable in the wet. In the dry, it's a very difficult move, and he does it. Brilliant stuff from Joey Foster, who takes full advantage of the loss of momentum there from Ollie White, who has lost 2 positions now in the space of just less than half a lap. So changing at the front of the field, we have had a change for 12th as well. Maserati is now into a transfer spot. Ivan McCulloch, though, is out of it. He was the 3rd place man in the Irish Formula 4 Championship this year, but sadly he's just dropped down into 13th position, about halfway round the previous previous lap. We didn't see it on the screens, but it was a good exit from Graham Hill Bend that allowed Maserati through, and we'll now wait to see whether or not the Irish driver McCulloch can fight back. It's all starting to bunch together here though, isn't it? Behind Matt Cowley, you've got Cowley, Eastwell, Foster, White, and then Ross Martin, and here comes Eastwell looking to the inside of Matt Cowley, but Eastwell, who's only done a part season of Formula Ford racing this year, but he's won one race at every meeting he's entered in the second half of 2019. Now though, he's got Joey Foster, the master of overtaking around the outside, trying to get around the outside of both of them. He gets himself a ticket to the inside line down into Graham Hill Bend. Don't bang wheels, this is very, very close indeed, but Joey Foster has got the inside line. He can't finish the move though, and he's now slow off the corner. Ollie White gets a chance to get back up the inside of him, which he does, and can Ollie White prize his way back through? They almost make contact, but no, Joey Foster just about fends him off, and actually, despite all of that excitement, the positions stay exactly as they were, but Joey Foster, we know, is not afraid to go where others aren't. If everyone else goes to the inside, you can be absolutely certain that he will go to the outside line, carry as much speed through the corner as he can. We saw him do it at Silverstone earlier this season when he came right from the back of the grid to win a round of the National Championship, again, despite having not competed in a full year in that series. And Joey Foster already in this race has proven how to overtake around Brands Hatch Indy Circuit on more than one occasion, but he wasn't quite able to complete that pass on Michael Eastwell, who now will be even more keen to get past Matt Cowley and try and get into some clean air. Jonathan Brown, by the way, is 2.4 seconds clear of this lot. He's doing exactly what he did in his heat yesterday, which is to start from pole position, get his head down and leave everybody else to fight for second position. Cowley, bit of a twitch on the brakes there into Clearway's corner. Eastwell sensing blood in the water, maybe gets himself in the slipstream through Clark Curve, and they head towards Paddock Hill Bend once again. Then we're into the second half of the race now, 8 laps completed of the 15 in this first semi-final, sponsored by Avon Tyres. All of these cars of course running on identical Avon tyres. I mean, there's no advantage to be gained there from what rubber you're running on, and Avon Tyres, a very grateful sponsor in this race. We've had another change further back, which means that Max Maserati is now into 11th, so he's a bit further out of the danger zone. Tom MacArthur though is now the man on the bubble with Ivan McCulloch, only 4/10 of a second behind him at the start of the lap, so I think he may have dropped back actually over the first part of this lap potentially, but Tom MacArthur, another the reigning Northern champion, losing a position down into 12th position overall. All starting to stack up again behind Cowley. Foster has caught Eastwell. He's bringing with him Ollie White and Ross Martin, and 5 cars make their way out of Clearways and Clark Curve with Michael Eastwell forced to go to the outside line. This might not work though, because this will give Joey Foster a chance to go to the inside into Paddock Hill Bend and try and challenge for third place, which he does, and Joey Foster has his car on the inside line. He'll have the inside for Druids as well, and Michael Eastwell is in real danger of losing more than one place here. Up into the braking zone they go into Druids corner. Eastwell sends it on the brakes. There's contact between the two of them. Foster eases Eastwell out wide, and Ollie White gets alongside too. Foster into third position. Eastwell has to try and fend off Ollie White if he can. He does more than that, goes up the inside of Foster and reclaims third position. How on earth did he get the car stopped into Graham Hill Bend? And actually it's now Ollie White that loses out, because Ross Martin gets up the inside and takes 5th position away from him. Did you keep up with all of that? There was lots going on, wasn't there, in the previous half a lap or so? But in the end, Matt Cowley's been able to buy himself about a second's worth of clear air now between himself and Michael Eastwell, and it's Joey Foster that is the man now having to go on the defence, because once more Ross Martin pulls to the outside going into Paddock Hill Bend. We've got 5 laps still to go, and these positions are well worth fighting for. They're all in transfer spots, but they know that if you're not in the top 2 or 3 rows on the grid for the final, your chances of winning that final are made an awful lot more difficult, especially if the conditions stay as they are now, which I believe they're set to do so for the rest of the afternoon. Brilliant racing here though. Ross Martin starting to come on quite strong in the second half of the race, has a little look to the inside of Joey Foster into Graham Hill Bend, but Joey good on the brakes, as we know. They're bringing more now into play, aren't they? Alan Davidson and Callum Crawley joining in, and Davidson has a look at the inside of Ollie White, who is fading all of a sudden. Ollie White seems to have some sort of an issue maybe developing in the car. He's fended Davidson off for now, but does seem to have lost a bit of pace. And in fact, I think Crawley's got past Davidson as well. Foster, though, about to lose a place to Ross Martin, who this time has got to the inside line across the start-finish line and had most of his car ahead by the time they reached the timing beam. He's completed the manoeuvre by the time they hit the brakes into Paddock Hill Bend. So Ross Martin goes 4th, Foster down to 5th position. And the timing screen disagrees with me when it says that Crawley was ahead of Davidson, but I'm pretty certain that he is. So We'll get that confirmed if we can, but more and more cars are now joining the queue. Morgan Quinn, Michael McPherson, Max Maserati, Tom MacArthur. The top 12, though, are fairly secure now. MacArthur's got himself 2.5 seconds of cushion over Ivan McCulloch, so unless there are any dramas for any of these cars in shot right now, and let's face it, that is possible, these should be drivers that all get themselves through to the final based on their performance from this race. The others will have to rely upon the last chance race later on this afternoon. So there is number 79. So yeah, that is Callum Crawley, definitely ahead of Alan Davidson, and now Max Maserati under pressure from, or is he gaining a place? Yeah, he's got past McPherson, hasn't he? So Maserati gains another spot into 10th, brings with him Tom MacArthur, and then goes up the inside of Morgan Quinn. So 2 more places gained from the former Renault Clio Junior competitor. And Max Maserati in the 81 car is on an absolute mission here. That now puts him up into 9th position, having started down in 13th. Started down in 14th, if that was Maserati. Morgan Quinn now falling backwards. Now you see, these drivers, they don't really need to be doing this, because if they continue to delay each other, Ivan McCulloch will catch them again, and this is the bubble, remember. The last car in that queue, the blue and white car of Michael McPherson, is the man in 12th place at the moment. So Michael McPherson would really rather everyone just settle down into a rhythm and allowed him to continue pulling away from Ivan McCulloch, but I reckon McCulloch is lapping a little bit quicker than them at the moment. More side-by-side action. Alan Davidson now goes up the inside of Callum Crawley, I think that is, isn't it, into the first corner. Yeah, that's for 6th position now for Alan Davidson, but on the exit, Crawley ends up in the gravel trap, needs to try and close the door as well before Ollie White gets back up the inside, but White has really fallen down the order. Maserati goes to the outside of Ollie White now as well through Druids, but that one doesn't quite work out. But Ollie White has been very strong all weekend, particularly in the wet conditions yesterday, and was up there in the early stages of this race, but for whatever reason the speed from about half race distance onwards just has not been there, and I don't think he's in danger of falling out of the top 12, but he could fall out of the top 10 before the end of the race. This man, though, has not lost a single position all weekend long, and he's about the only person that can say that. Jonathan Brown dominated his heat yesterday from pole position, and he's dominated this semi-final as well. He's 5.5 seconds clear of Matt Cowley in 2nd position, Michael Eastwell still 3rd, and Ross Martin in 4th place for the time being, but he's some way back from the 2nd place squabble between Cowley and Eastwell. Jonathan Brown, though, who I referred to as a surprise winner yesterday, and he was very quick to pull me up on that yesterday evening. What I meant is that he was 5th in the championship this year. People like Ross Martin, for example, the reigning champion, you would have maybe assumed would be heat winners as well. But Jonathan, really, to give him his credit, has been in phenomenal form this weekend, and we can't even just put it down to the wet conditions yesterday. It's been a flawless performance in this dry semi-final as well, and as he comes through to see the checkered flag, which wasn't waved, but it was the last lap of the race, Jonathan Brown should have won the race. He won't know he's won the race yet, but he has won it. 2nd place goes to Matt Cowley, 3rd place for Michael Eastwell, and Ross Martin in 4th position. Then it's all changed again behind, as it very nearly does. Joey Foster is 5th, 6th position for Callum Crawley. That's a good drive from 8th on the grid. 7th for Alan Davidson, 8th Max Maserati, arguably the driver of the race really. 9th position for Tom MacArthur, 10th Morgan Quinn, Ollie White 11th, and Ivan McCulloch is 12th because Michael McPherson dropped down to 13th position on the last lap. That's real drama then. I don't know what happened to Michael McPherson. We didn't see it on the footage unfortunately, but Ivan McCulloch has got himself into an automatic transfer spot on the very last lap of semi-final 1. That was real determination there from McCulloch, because at one stage he was nearly 3 seconds behind the top 12 and he managed to reel them back in. We have to assume that McPherson had a moment on the last lap and misses out on a transfer spot by 16 one-thousandths of a second. It was a near dead heat between the two of them, and that is the difference. He will still be at the front of the last chance race later on, McPherson, but he would obviously have much rather managed to get an automatic transfer spot instead. Well, what a way to start our Formula Ford Festival action here today with semi-final 1 sponsored by Avon Tyres. Jonathan Brown won the race from pole position by 5.5 seconds, which does not do that race justice. There was some terrific battling going on behind him, but Jonathan Brown, the Cliff Dempsey Racing driver, was in faultless form and was able to lead it from start to finish. Unfortunately, though, there was drama behind through the first corner. The young Irish driver Jordan Dempsey found himself in the gravel trap at Paddock Hill Bend. no contact involved as far as I could see. He just went off on cold tyres, beached himself in the gravel, and unfortunately that put Jordan Dempsey out of the festival. He will not even qualify, as far as I can tell, for the last chance race later on today. There was also drama for Bryce Aaron, who sadly was an early retirement as well. Mechanical issues seemed to put paid to his festival hopes. And he was actually classified 27th, so he will be at the back of the last chance race. That's interesting. Officially retired before he did. Meanwhile, after the safety car had been brought out to recover Jordan Dempsey's car, the real battle was the one going on for second place, with Matt Cowley trying, and actually succeeding ultimately, to hang on to second position despite increasing pressure from Michael Eastwell. Joey Foster was doing his usual round the outside performance, not actually able though to make it work, and actually ended up losing fourth position to Ross Martin before the flag. Michael Eastwell though continued to run right on the gearbox of Matt Cowley, but every time he went to the outside to try and make a move, Joey Foster was there to fill the gap on the inside or the outside, whichever opportunity was left for him. At no point was he able to succeed in getting past Michael Eastwell, but this was the closest he got by banging wheels with Michael through Druids Corner. He did get in front, but then look at this for some late braking for Eastwell. Well, we didn't see it, but he managed to get back up the inside into Graham Hill-Bound and re-overtake Joey Foster to secure a podium place. Then it was all about the fight for 12th position. This was the fight that was going on towards the back of the group. Eventually, Ivan McCulloch managed to get himself back into 12th spot, gaining an automatic transfer spot to the final, with Michael McPherson on the final lap, missing out on that position by 16 one-thousandths of a second. And breathe, everybody. That was semi-final one, brought to you by Avon Tyres. The second semi-final will be getting underway in only a couple of minutes' time, and that will have an equally competitive grid of drivers.